In this tutorial, we drop a donut and get a cube. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Right, step 1, press numpad 1, select the default cube, press tab to go into edit mode, press G to grab it, Z to lock it on the Z axis, and press 1. And now we've got it perfectly on this line. Press tab to go into object mode, and when you scale this out now, press S7. And it scales on that red line, which is quite nice. Now click wireframe mode with X-ray on. That's perfect. We're going to rename this cube the domain. And we're probably going to adjust the size in a second, but let's create a collection called domain just so that everything is nice and neat. Chuck it in there like that. And now we're going to press Shift D, right click, S, Z, and bring it down to about there. Should be good. And then press S, Shift Z, just bring it a little bit like that so it's not touching the domain, it's got some breathing room, and then G, Z, and you're good. Now that would be perfect. New collection, we're going to call this collection flow, and we're going to put this domain in here. Rename this flow, or we can call it base flow, because I think we might have a second flow in this tut. Perfect. Next thing we want to do is press Shift A, mesh. Let's use a torus. Click on add, and let's just make it a little bit thicker so that water can easily be part of it. 0.5 should be good. And then we press R, X, 90 for 90 degrees, G to grab it, Z on the Z axis, and we're going to lift it up to the very top over here, and that should be good. G, Z, as long as it's within the domain, you are good, like that. There we go. And now we're going to create a new collection, and this new collection is going to be called effector, because whenever you're dealing with liquid simulations, the three core ingredients is your domain, your flow, and your effectors. And for the effector, we're going to press Shift A, mesh, and we're going to use a default cube. We're going to press G, Z. I'm going to select these other items, press H just to hide it for a second, go to solid view mode, and we're going to look at the top of this like this. Press tab to go into edit mode, 3 to choose face select, choose this top face, press X to delete it, press tab to go back into object mode, press S2, numpad 1, and we can press Alt H, or we can just turn everything on like this and go back into wireframe mode. Make sure that this shape GZ is within the domain. It's quite important. And if we look over here, there's plenty of water on either side of this, which is great. Now that we've got all the elements we need, let's add the physics. So the first thing we want to do is select your effector, which is this cube over here. We're going to go to the physics properties, fluid, effector, collision, planar, and you should be good. And for a slightly better result, we just put this on 5. And then we're going to select our base flow, which is fluid, flow, got to change smoke to liquid, and everything is 5. If you've got the patience, you can always up the sampling substeps. The sampling substeps is how many iterations it does between each frame for the best possible result. The more the better, but the longer your simulation will take. Right, so I'm quite happy with that. Everything looks good here. Geometry is correct. Next thing we're going to use is this over here, which is this torus, also like a donut, fluid, flow, smoke to liquid, geometry, and we'll put this on 5 as well. And the last thing we want is the domain, which is going to be fluid, domain, liquid, up the resolution. The higher the resolution, the better for a better result. We'll leave it on 64, but if you can do a better resolution, you'll get a better overall outcome. 64 is what we'll use, and I like to have this up this for just a slightly better result, better quality. More 8 and 4 should be fine. It will slow things down a bit, but not by too much. Leave them as is if you don't have the time to do that. Alright, now we can scroll down here and we can turn on resumable. That's quite important. And the other thing we can switch on is modular, so we can see the simulation in action. And we can make the simulation 120 frames. We shouldn't need to be more than 120 frames. In fact, we're going to make this entire timeline 120 frames. And just so that when we do decide to render this, go to the render settings and limit it to 120, which it already is, so it's perfect. Now, is there anything else we want to change here? 64, 8 and 4. Let's turn on mesh. And I'm going to actually turn this to all. And I'm going to bake it in. Alright, now that the simulation is done, we can press play and just take a quick look at how it looks. And the thing we're looking for is the splash that's going to come, because based on that splash, we're going to make our effector come up. Here we go, our splash connects at frame 20. Down, down, down it goes. It shoots back up. Pause at frame 53. So now what I need to do is I need to select my cube over here and go to frame 50, I believe, and press I, location, rotation and scale. Go to frame 55. Press G, Z, let's turn on this as well. Press I, location, rotation and scale, and let's see how it looks at frame 60. Let's press G, Z and just bring it up even more. Let's check out frame 70. G, Z. Let's do frame 80. G, Z. Let's bring it all the way up here. Let's look at frame 90. Frame 95. Okay, at frame 95, we're going to press I, location, rotation, and scale. But we're going to go to frame 96, and we're going to press G, Z, and bring it all the way back down here. Actually, we don't want to do that exact thing. What we want to do is, sorry, let's go back to frame 95 quickly. What we want to do is we want to animate the collision, but as soon as we go to 96, we want to convert the collision to a guide. And press, and it's already been marked because we got that, but I'm just going to press I to be safe. So when we go to 96, 95 it's that, and 96 it's a guide. Alright, and that's it. Now that we've done that, we have to go click our domain, scroll all the way down, we have to free all, and we have to do the final render. Let's bake it. Alright, the simulation is complete. One thing I did change was just where I put those keyframes, put them on 107 and 108, and so that we can see the block fully up here. So it will remain solid at 107. At 108, the container converts into a guide, which means the water will just flow straight back down. So when we go back to frame 1, this is how our simulation will look. And let's choose a solid view mode, and let's hide our flows and our effectors. We don't need to see that. And we could up the resolution for the water to look a lot better with these ripples. And right by frame 50 we should see something pop up. And the more resolution you have, the more like liquid this will look. So something shot out of the water. And because there's still a container, this water is dripping off the sides of that invisible container. And we briefly get to see this random cube shape that will now automatically just go down and get poured down. Well, I hope you like this tutorial. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.